Hello! Today I'm gonna do my January wrap-up. It's not the end of January yet, it's January 30th, but I just felt like I needed to put this month to rest because that's where I am. This was a rough month for me. I have not hit a wall so hard in all of the pandemic. I don't know what it was about January. I think normally January is sort of shitty, and then you normally have the bump from the holidays to see you through. You're like, okay, I can make it through the winter. But obviously I didn't have that this year. And I knew in my brain that 2021 was not a magic number. I got somewhat depressed about that in the fall. I was like, oh, things aren't actually going to be different in 2021. That's just an arbitrary date. But I think my heart had not yet come to terms with that until the insurrection in the Capitol, and then I was like, oh no, okay, yes, we are all together, up to speed, things still suck. Anyways, that being said, I did not read very much this month. I actually think I read less this month than I ever have, at least since college. I technically read 2 books, and one of those books I finished 90 to 95% of it in 2020. So, yeah, there's not a lot to wrap up today. That being said, this is probably going to be a pretty short video. Just going to review my 2 books, and then maybe have a little casual chat after for anybody who wants to stick around, because content, and I didn't vlog this month. So let's get to the books. So the first book that I read in 2021 was Claire DeWitt and the City of the Dead by Sara Gran. And this is a mystery that had been very highly recommended on one of the book podcasts that I listened to. And I listened to a lot of those, so I don't quite remember which one it is, but I'm pretty sure it's So Many Damn Books. So that's a good podcast if anybody's looking for some book podcasts. But yeah, I think it was recommended as sort of a good mystery with a somewhat unlikable private eye, and that's sort of right up my alley. I have realized, I feel like BookTube has really helped me clarify my taste in fiction, and in mysteries I definitely like an unlikable protagonist. I feel like it complicates things in an interesting way, depending on how well it's done, obviously. But basically, this story is about Claire DeWitt, who is a private eye, who's in New Orleans on a case to find a lawyer who went missing during Hurricane Katrina. I found it very interesting because she's a good investigator, but there's a lot of sort of woo-woo elements to it. Throughout the book, there's sort of this detection Bible that everybody keeps referencing. That's sort of both, the art of detective work, but also sort of a life philosophy that everybody's very into. And it's not a real book, it's just this private eye's text, but she does a lot of energy work and stuff like that, and I thought it was sort of interesting to be following around a detective who isn't well, scientifically. There were a couple twists and turns. I think that they were not super hard to guess, if that annoys you in mystery. I mean, I sort of like feeling smart, so I like it when I feel like the mystery is just hard enough that it's worthwhile, but also I can guess it, because I like to, boost my ego in that way. But yeah, I thought that, the characterization was really good, the story was interesting, so I gave it 4 stars overall, and I'm definitely going to be reading the next book in the series, which I think is set in the San Francisco Bay Area. After that, I took 3 weeks off from reading, so that happened. I did DNF a lot of books, but again, when I'm in a super DNF-y mood, it's not actually because the books are bad, it's just I can't settle down with one. So I'm not gonna list them. The book that finally caught my attention was Red Rising by Pierce Brown. I can't decide if I'm giving this a 2 or 3 stars. I feel like that might be unexpected. Duh. I think I have to give it 3 stars because it did hold my attention in a way that I had not been able to do in January at all. So this is why star ratings are stupid, right? Because it's just it's just about where you are. It's not, at least for me, there's nothing rational about how I feel about a book. it's like 100% what you're projecting onto it. So depending on where I am mentally, my ratings are just like all over the place, I feel like. I mean, there are definitely things that I like in books I go to for comfort, books that will like grab me and stuff like that. Sometimes I can pick well depending on my mood, but what I'm saying is I'm the ultimate mood reader, and like you should probably take none of my reviews seriously. But I am gonna give this a 3 stars, which, just to clarify, in my star rating means that I liked it. Like 3 stars is a good rating for me. So I liked it. Let's do a plot summary. In Red Rising, there's this stratified society where the Reds are mining helium-3 or something like that to allow the gold class to colonize Mars to make the planet habitable. But the Reds are basically slaves. So in the beginning of the book, you have the main character, Darrow. He ends up going and infiltrating the Golds and sort of tries to win at their own game a little bit. I think that there are some plot points that actually happen very early on in the book that I wish I hadn't known about before they happen, so I'm just like gonna keep the summary really vague. But basically, I did enjoy it. It was like very readable. I like was listening to the audiobook, but I read the whole thing in like 2 or 3 days, and it's not a short book. But I do have a couple issues with it. One of them is particular to me, and 2 of them are like YA, fantasy, and sci-fi things that I just have a hard time with in general. So the thing that was specific to me is that it was this sort of fantasy trope where the main character is infiltrating like this upper class, and he's like trying not to get caught, and to me that's like not a very satisfying plot in general. Like, it began where he was like with his people and like with the revolutionaries, and they're gonna do some stuff, and then he got sent off into this like new world and like has to like fit in and like prove himself and then also not get caught and stuff like that. And like I understand why that plot is like very compelling logically, but I just personally don't like it very much. Like a lot of books do this. Like the first book in the Mistborn series also sort of does this, and I think that's why I didn't like that one very much either. But to me, the reason why I sort of find all of those plots a little bit redundant, because there are only 2 true hurdles to overcome, and that's like not getting caught, which I don't know, I think is sort of boring. And then also, like, inevitably there's this, like, oh, I'm infiltrating this group of people, but it turns out they're actually not all evil, and that gives me, like, a moral, ethical dilemma. And, like, I also find that sort of boring, because, like, it's been done a lot, I think. And, like, yes, you can do it well, but how many people do it well? I don't know. Anyways, so that's personally my problem with that. The 2 that I think are actually problems with the book is that Darrow, the main character, definitely comes across as pretty Mary Sue-ish. He's just like very good at what he does for no reason. It's very like a chosen one thing, but you don't know why he's chosen really. I mean, like they give you some reasons, but it's like, okay, but why is he so special? Why are we giving him the Mary Sue treatment? He does have some big problems that he has problems dealing with. Like, it starts out with him being a big Mary Sue, and then in the middle he does have like a lot of issues and makes some very bad choices and stuff like that, so that helps. But then by the end he's all Mary Sue-ing again, like, yeah, I just got this for no particular reason. So there's that. And then I think my biggest problem with it, am I just slamming this book right now? I'm sorry. Like, I did enjoy it. It's weird how you can enjoy something but then still have a lot of issues with it. Anyways, so the part that I most had a problem with is that, like, all the women in the book are definitely just props for Darrow's emotional development. Like, they do not have any sort of agency or interesting plot lines of their own. They're just there to, like, live or die and make Darrow have feelings and, like, put more obstacles in his way. And I found that very frustrating. So it was like just one of these books. I feel like sometimes you read a book and you're like, oh, this was 100% written by a dude, and this was 100% written by a dude. And that's fine, but also, like, can you be a little bit a little bit better at what you do and like how you characterize people. Basically, okay, TLDR, the characters annoyed me. The plot was okay, but it was written well, so there we are. It's a 3-star. I've gone off on this for a long time, so I guess it's good that I only read 2 books this month. What else was I doing other than reading? I started and stopped filming vlogs 3 times this month, because every time I started filming one, it would literally just be clips of me being like, I'm sad. So that wasn't great. I was like, okay, maybe I should put one of these out because I feel like it's, the internet can turn into toxic positivity very easily, but I do personally go to BookTube as like an escape from everything being terrible in the world. So I sort of didn't want to put out a vlog where it's just like, everything's terrible. And then also, I think more to the point, I didn't want to spend the time editing together a lot of clips of me being unhappy because that just did not seem very good for my mental state in general. I am feeling a bit better now, so I think I am going to try starting a vlog today, and we'll see how that goes. You might ask, since I didn't read any books, did I read any New Yorkers? And the answer is no. No, I did not read any New Yorkers. So I still have that problem. That's just all over my floor right now. I did find a good book podcast that I hadn't heard of before, and it's called Sentimental Garbage. This was sort of like a high-low replacement for me because the high-low ended and that made me very sad. Sentimental Garbage is basically a book podcast where the host has a guest on and they like sort of do a deep dive into a book that, because it's women's fiction or because it's genre fiction, people generally don't take seriously, but they do. And I found it a nice escape. So if you're looking for a book podcast, that would be a good one. And I guess that's it. Sorry there aren't very many books in here. I hope to do better next month. I also go to books for comfort and stuff like that. Oh, did I missed a book. Did I finish that? Yeah, I missed a book. Oops. When I was not reading new books, I reread Sabriel by Garth Nix, which I didn't put in my Goodreads, but that is one of these old books that I go back to for comfort a lot. So I actually like own that audiobook, and whenever I'm feeling sort of down, I'll cue it up. And I feel like, yeah, in reading it, I definitely, I had my analytical brain on a little bit more than I normally do when I'm rereading an old favorite. Again, mostly because of BookTube. I think it's sort of changing the way I read. But yeah, I was trying to think of like what about this book I love so much and like makes me keep coming back to it as a comfort read. And honestly, I think it's just I read it at the right time. So that goes back to my thing where it's like, are any of my opinions actually legitimate? Maybe not. Anyways, so Sabriel is about a young woman who's in this kingdom where there's a wall. It's not Game of Thrones, but there's a wall, and above the wall there is magic, and below the wall there is not. And she grew up below the wall, but she's from the Northern Kingdom. So basically, she's in the Southern Kingdom and finds out that her father is trapped somewhere in the Northern Kingdom, and she has to go and save him, basically. And a big part of the magic system in this book is that there's necromancy. So there's sort of the charter, which is I guess sort of like religious magic. It's linked to their religion, and then there's free magic and necromancy, which is not linked to their, whatever the charter is. She and her father are sort of necromancers, but they also use charter magic. So their job is to put the dead to rest, not to raise the dead. So she has to go on this journey through the north. And it is a very good book. I mean, when I was listening to it, I was like, okay, if I listened to this for the first time now, would I have this same strong emotional reaction to it? And I think no, but it is still a very good book. So I highly recommend you read it. Wow, I read 3 whole books this month. Okay, so maybe not my worst reading month ever, but pretty close. Pretty close to my worst reading month. So I'm just closing out this month a little early. Hopefully February is better. I have some on my queue that I am excited to start, and I should just dive into them, you know what I mean? So with that, I'll end here. Let me know what you read in January. Let me know how your January went in general. Just like How are you guys? And yeah, I will see you in a video next week. Bye.